Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Drop in the Gloves. Thank you for joining us here. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. I leave tomorrow morning for Key West for a week, where I've never been. Very excited. So, yeah, I got to start packing all that. But we are very, very happy to be going there.
Yeah, beautiful weather. Well, is it beautiful? I don't even know.
No, it's going to be like windy and stormy and rainy. We're hoping we get 1 or 2 days that are nice weather, but it's going to be a lot of indoor stuff, unfortunately.
So why go? I guess you've already paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the week they have every year, so it's not going to change.
All right, well, have fun with that. It's like we had a trip booked, my family and I, to go down to Arizona the week of the lockdowns during COVID, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And so we packed for the trip. We were ready to go. And then all of a sudden, different states started to shut down. And it was early on, so everybody didn't know what was going on. It was just like, what is this virus? Literally the day before, we were still planning on going, and the day of, I pulled the plug. I said, I don't think we should go. I was worried about stopping in different states and like if things would be open, or all of a
Yeah,
sudden just the whole place goes scorched earth and the gas stations close and it's just like a movie where you can't go anywhere or do anything. So
you were going
we
to
didn't
drive?
go. We were going to drive. I can't fly
Wow.
with my kids. It's impossible. No, literally, they won't let me, the airlines, because I have too many young kids
Per
and
adults,
not
yeah.
enough adults. Yeah. So we explored it, but they said you physically can't go unless you bring another adult with you. I think it's two kids for every adult, maybe,
You should have brought
maybe
me.
three kids per adult. Yeah, bring you. The kids love you. They call you Hockey Puck Tim because of that magic trick you did for them in Grand Rapids like a million years ago, or in Chicago. I can't remember where it was,
That was forever. Chicago, yeah.
forever ago. But anyways, moving on. I'm happy you're going on your trip. That'll be fun. Did you know, Tim? The NHL starts today.
Yeah, I found out this morning. How
Isn't
about
that
that?
amazing marketing again by the NHL? That the NHL, you figure it's a big year for them. They're growing. They want to improve the league and get viewers excited. Not even a whisper. And we're plugged in, right? So we know what's going on. Not even a whisper from the NHL. No advertisements. I haven't seen a thing. And they picked a really sexy matchup to start the league. You know how the NFL will do a Thursday night game. It's usually the previous year's Super Bowl champion with their biggest rivals. The NBA does that too. The NHL picked the most exciting matchup I could imagine. The Buffalo Sabres and the New Jersey Devils. Two high-end teams, huge markets, and they're just putting them on prime time, baby, Saturday night. No, no. It comes in with a whimper. Sabres Devils. No one's even going to watch it. It's just par for the course for the NHL. I don't know who their marketing team is. They need to be executed. Don't you think?
Well, I had this vague idea that there was a game happening in Europe. I knew which teams were going, but I didn't know when the game was starting. I thought it was starting maybe this weekend and the real season started like Monday or Tuesday or whatever. No, it's today. It's today. And I found out by going to NHL.com. Like I had to go to them. They didn't tell me. It's a little weird, but nevertheless, it is fun. It's exciting. The season's underway. If you have your fantasy teams, hopefully your lineups are set because the game's starting. It already started.
Yeah, Devils
Started
are
at
up
1 o'clock.
1-0.
Who scored? Do we know?
Stefan Nosen.
Nice. How exciting. What a name. Speaking of fantasy, by the way, we had our fantasy draft on Wednesday night, whatever it was, with our annual. You didn't do it this year, but Dropping the Gloves League. And shout out to the listeners who are in it this year, including Robert, Joe, Edward, Derek, Alex, Jaron, and Jay. Really exciting. I had the second pick McKinnon, obviously. It was good. Big expectations this year.
Why I did not even get asked to
You
give.
did. You did. You sure did. And you said, nope.
I can't. I have no time for that. It's just every day doing I beat you last year though, so I guess
Yeah.
you
I
know
think I finished dead last year. Bad
you're not a
team.
good fantasy player. You have no foresight.
I do. This year is different. I went all in on the goalies last year, and they both struck out. Sorokin had the worst year of his career. So
You sound like an abusive husband. This year's going to be different, honey. I promise.
okay,
I promise. This is the year. I promise. Speaking of that, how's the girlfriend? She's still around?
she's still around. We're going on vacation tomorrow, so she's stuck with me now.
Do you pack the ring in the carry-on or do you pack it under the plane?
This is about family vacation. It's about having a good time. So
What a better
no,
place to do it though, with all the family around.
right in the middle of a thunderstorm. Be great.
Oh, that'd be beautiful. I think honestly, I think you're going to do it. Tim doesn't tell me when he's going to do it, but he's got the ring. I know. I know it's there somewhere, right?
No, no,
You got
no.
this farmer's dog money now. Listen to you.
Yeah,
By the way,
boatloads.
if you got a dog, we would really appreciate you going to buy some farmer's dog food, even if it's just for a couple months. It's a good deal. Check it out. It helps us out a ton. We're in a transition period right now, Tim and I. We're trying to maybe Pat McAfee going on our own with our ads. So farmer's dog was Tim's big catch. So if you got a farmer's dog, if you got a dog, even if you humans can eat it too, do us a solid and just go buy the stinking food for us. Then we'll get a big long deal with farmer's dog. It'll be fantastic.
Go
Right,
check
Tim?
it out. Yeah. Thefarmersdog.com/gloves. Just try it once. Your dog will love it. It's super healthy. Levi, my dog, is obsessed with it. He's waiting by his bowl at dinner time, which he never used to do. So
How about my wife's cousin? Great guy, Andrew. I'm good friends with him. We haven't talked to him. We had a little row a few years back because we went at it with Biden and Trump back and forth. And this was this was pre Biden's win. It was 4 years ago before the election. He was just like, we were both a little overserved, and he was just spouting out some facts. And I listen. I'm an independent. I go. I vote. Whatever. But I was just he didn't like my stance, and we haven't talked since. But anyways, he has a dog. Back to Farmer's dog, and we're like, can you want some dog food? I'll send you some free stuff because we get a sample. And he's like, does it have any chicken in it? Because my dog doesn't agree with chicken. I'm like, oh my gosh, just funny.
never mind.
No, but it does. So Farmer's Dog does have 4 separate choices, right? Beef, pork, chicken, turkey. So they do have a
Yeah.
chicken-free option. So I'm just going to get them to sign up for it and just pick the other 3. And it's pretty cheap. It's relatively, cheap considering the quality of it. So check it out, Farmer's Dog. I'm done on that. That wasn't even an ad. We just kind of went with it. But anyways, so predicting stuff this year. Everybody does it, bold predictions. And Tim and I, we're going to jump on the bandwagon because we like doing it too. We don't do every team. We don't do 32 teams, this and that, and just the low hanging fruit. We like to have some fun with it. This is where I got in trouble a few years ago because I said Ovechkin was going to have a down year. There's no way he's going to pass Wayne Gretzky. And he ended up scoring 62 goals. So it gets you in hot water a little bit, but they are bold predictions, and Tim and I enjoy doing it. So here we go again. This is 2024-25. Dropping the gloves, bold predictions. I think this is year 4. It's very fun. What we like to do is we like to recap last year's results, see if anybody hits on their bold predictions. Now, where this goes sideways is Tim's bold predictions are, I'll do the spicy scale as salsas. Tim does mild chunky salsa for boldness. So his bold predictions are usually pretty apt to pay off. Whereas mine are like ghost pepper, super spicy, not going to pay off. So just take that into consideration when we go through the list. My picks last year was McDavid would have 175 points. Failed. He had 132. He got hurt, wasn't really motivated. I don't know what the issue was. Dougie Hamilton would win the Norris Trophy. That was my second bold prediction. He only played 20 games. He got hurt. So that one I think is a scratch. My third bold prediction, the Bruins would have the largest drop-off in points in NHL history. They had a fantastic year. Huge fail. My third one, Ovechkin would lead the league in scoring. I was trying to reverse it. I was trying to Costanza it. He didn't lead the league in scoring, but he had 31. He had a pretty solid year. And my fifth bold prediction with Toronto and Edmonton would make the Stanley Cup Finals. 1 out of 2. I got Edmonton there. Toronto really let me down and let a lot of people down. So I failed every single one of them, but I feel like there are asterisks on a couple of them. Dougie Hamilton, Toronto, Edmonton, maybe McDavid because he didn't play a full season. Maybe he gets 30 points in those 10 games. I don't know. So, Tim, what were your bold predictions, or should I say mild predictions?
Yeah, I thought mine were pretty bold, so we're going to disagree there. But the Sabres and Senators will both make the playoffs. I thought that was pretty bold. That was a fail. Neither of them did. Not even close. A defenseman, so the year before, Erik Karlsson had 100 points, 101, whatever it was. I said another defenseman, not Karlsson, will have 100. That was a fail. Quinn Hughes led the charge with 92. Makar and Yossi were both close, but didn't happen. I said 3 rookies will get 80 points each. That was probably my boldest one. That was another fail. Bedard led the rookies with 61, so not really close there. Fourth one, 5 Pacific teams will make the playoffs. That failed. There were only 4, and the next 2 after outside the wild card were Central, and Calgary was, way down the line. So that wasn't really close. And the last one, the Bruins would win the Atlantic Division, which was bold because of all the roster drop offs and
It
the
was.
the sirens that were sounding that summer. But that was a fail. They finished second to the Panthers.
I'm just teasing you, Tim. They were very bold. Before we get into the bold predictions, let's talk about some current news. What do you think of this Arbor Jack guy stuff? Tim Stutzel, you saw the hit,
Yep.
and then you see the replay and the actuality that he didn't hit his head, but it looks bad from optics wise, and obviously coming off of the whole Toronto situation where he goes after Paré and attacks him, which I thought was egregious and just terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. What do you think of this whole situation where he doesn't get suspended and people just go after him? Does he now have one of those reputations where every time he does something, he's just going to be labeled a dirty player now because of that one play versus Paré?
Yeah, I think he will be because the Stutzla one, like it looked really bad, and people were saying, 10 games, 20 games, whatever, like throw the book at him because he had just gotten away with something really cheap.
Yeah.
What, the night before, 2 nights
Yep.
before? But then you watch it in slow mo, and he doesn't catch his head after all. And the only thing that hits Stutzla's head is his own stick, which is not Jack Guy's fault. That's just a bang bang happenstance thing. But the intent was to hurt. Like the intent was to blow him up. It looked like a shoulder head. So yeah, Jack Guy, I like the player. Obviously, he plays with high energy, high intensity. He's physical in the league, but not a lot of guys are doing that anymore. But it seems like it's a ticking time bomb where someone's going to get hurt because of what he's doing, and maybe I don't know. He hasn't been suspended before, to my knowledge, and the fact that 2 incidents happened in the preseason within a couple of days of each other maybe is skewing our opinion of him. But I'd be real careful if I was him not to cross that line because the player safety department's going to be all over him, and they'll jump at the first chance they can to suspend him.
Yeah, and this is where it gets a little muddy with the player safety because George Peros obviously has some connection to the Montreal Canadiens, played there a few years. I think he ended his career with Montreal. And so people are just starting to whisper, like, is this hometown, favoritism? Does he not want to penalize him because he played there? This and that, the relationship. So it's always tricky, but I don't know. I don't know. It's a good thing that people are looking at him because he is strong. He needs to be careful. It's reminiscent of me. I don't want to bring it back to me, but when I hit Louis Erickson, I was a clean player until that, and then ever since that, I was labeled as a dirty player. So, whatever it may be, he's a good player. He'll be playing 82 games. Moving on. Speaking of the Montreal Canadiens, I'm going to start my bold predictions right there with potentially Arbor Jackey's partner, Lane Hudson, a new generation of defensemen coming in on the heels of a Cale Makar, Adam Fox, Roman Josi, those types of players. We've seen Brock Faber come in. We got Luke Hughes in New Jersey, a little bit taller, but puck-moving, fleet-footed defenseman. Montreal Canadiens got a good one. Played 2 games last year, had 2 assists. The big thing that stood out for me was his ice time. That is the reason I think Lane Hudson wins the Calder Trophy this year as Rookie of the Year. There's a lot of good options. You got Calabrini in San Jose. You got Mikhev or Makiev, whatever it is, Michov in Philadelphia. Yeah. There's a lot of really good young players stepping into the league this year. I think Lane Hudson wins the Calder Rookie of the Year for my first bold prediction, mainly because other than Matheson, who I think Martin St. Louis loves and plays the tar out of him, Lane Hudson is the only guy back there who can do something offensively. I know Goulet is kind of good, but it's Lane Hudson's blue line, and if he can all of a sudden vault Matheson into the first power play unit, there's no chance anybody touches him for Rookie of the Year. He gets a ton of ice time. Last year in the 2 games, Tim, almost 23 minutes per game. Young kid coming into the lineup. He gets a full off season. He gets a full training camp. If he can just hit the ground running, this kid's going to get 60 points. The sky is the limit for him. They have really, really high-end forwards, even with Patrick Laine out for the year. They have a great forwards group. Their defense is their weakness. This guy's going to play a ton of minutes. He's going to get a ton of opportunity. He'll finish the year a minus $1 million. But it'll be an Erik Karlsson type thing where he's minus 25, 30, but he'll have 60, 70 points. So that's my first bold prediction. Not crazy bold, because you could see it happening. Because he's going to have a lot of opportunity, much like Brock Faber did last year with the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was thinking about him with versus Brock Faber, and they're such different players, obviously, even though they play the same position. And Faber, I think, is the more impactful, more all around better player. But Faber's Hudson's better to watch. So much fun to watch them skate, and with the hips and the legs at the blue line and all that. So I like that. My first one here. I'll start this little trivia question for you, John. How long has it been since someone other than McDavid, Draisaitl, and Kucherov led the league in points?
Oh boy, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Kucherov. I want to say like 10 years, 9 years,
Yeah, 8 years.
8 years. Yeah,
So the last year was Patrick Kane with 106 points in 2015-16. So my first bold prediction: someone other than them will lead the league in points. And so that's the prediction as it stands. My guesses are like, okay, you'd think McKinnon, Matthew, Pasta, one of the typical names. I'm gonna go with Elias Pettersson, outside pick. But yeah, I think someone other than them will lead the league in points this year.
that is a bold prediction because I would even think Artemi Panarin would be in that group too. But those guys are that's not going to happen. Do you honestly think in your heart of hearts that has a chance to happen, or how are you ranking these? Are you going most likely to least likely? How is this going in your list?
That one is the least bold, I think, probably, or at least I don't know, the least exciting. And
Mm,
of those 8 years that this has happened, McDavid's had five, Kucherov has had two, and Draisaitl had one. So
yeah. No,
yeah,
I agree. All right, moving on. Mine will be. I'm going to stay in the East. I'm going to go to the Carolina Hurricanes, your home state right now. Andrei Svechnikov, injury plagued. Hasn't really had a full season in a few years. I think his last full season was 3 years ago. Last year, if you prorated, he was a point per game player. So he is that guy, but he can't stay healthy, Tim. Coming off a major injury to start last year and played fantastic. But this year is his year. He's going to put it all together. He's 24 years old. I feel like Jake Gensel moving on. Not that that hindered him, but he is the goal scorer now. He's got a fantastic first line with him, Aho, and Seth Jarvis. Well, as lethal as they come, Seth Jarvis came into his own last year, and we heard people talk about how good Sebastian Aho is. Jake Gensel spoke glowingly about him when he was on the show a few months ago. He's going to give Svechnikov the puck. Jarvis is going to pull coverage away from him because of the season he had last year. And I was going to go he gets 50 goals, but I don't know if he hits 50 goals. My bold prediction is Andrei Svechnikov hits 100 points this year. I think his season high is in the 60s, 69 3 years ago. So it's a little bit of a jump to get 31 more points. That's a 30% increase in his points, but I do think this is his year. It's his time. He needs to take that next step. He can't always have that stamp of, oh, the potential's there. If he were only healthy, he's a moose of a player. He's strong in front of his net. He's got a lethal shot. There's always that air of he could be terrific. He has to put it all together this year. There was no other option. This team is really high end, top heavy in the first line. Then it kind of gets really thin after that. That first line is going to get a ton of opportunity. They're going to play pretty much the whole power play. You put Martin Nikas and you get Shane Gostisbehere to kind of quarterback the power play. It's a good power play. He's going to get a ton of opportunity, offensive zone time. He's going to play a ton of minutes. They need that three to score, and Svechnikov's going to get a bunch of points. I think he tops 100 points, Tim.
I like that. And I remember watching him at the rookie camp in Traverse City 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was. And as someone who drafted him in fantasy this year, I hope you're right. I think he's a really good player. My next one here, I'm going to go with a similar one, sort of. I have three players that I think are going to score 40 goals this year, and my bold prediction is that all three of them do. And I'm going to tell you who the players are and tell you what their career high is to this point in goals. Some of them were last year, some of them weren't. The first one, Cole Caulfield, his career high is 28. The next one, Martin Necas, career high is also 28. And the third one is Dylan Gunther, whose career high is 18, which was last year. All three of them will hit 40 goals this year. Oh, John, you're muted.
You had to go with three of them.
Yeah.
Wow, that's aggressive. I like that. Which one do you think is the least probable to hit it out of those three? Is it Gunther?
Yeah, Gunther. Although he might have the best opportunity because he is the guy on the right hand side in that lineup. And I think he's probably because like Nietzsche, we've seen
Yeah.
him at this point, and he already signed his contract. Cole Caulfield is probably a good bet at that. So I'd say Gunther, but yeah, all three of them.
Tim, I love that. That's good. All right, my one. Speaking of goal scoring, I'm going to go back to the well. Alex Ovechkin, I've done him the last 3 years. I went low on him 2 years ago. I went high on him last year. I'm just going to go with my gut this year, and I think he regresses, Tim, immensely this year. He's 39 years old. He's not getting any younger. Father time will catch up to him. I think it has caught up to him last year. If it wasn't for that stretch, do you remember that stretch? He started the season, I think the first 2 months, he was invisible. I feel like he had 4 or 5 goals in the first 20 or 30 games or so. All of a sudden, he caught fire.
Yeah.
He got 20 some goals in like 15 games, and it just buttressed up his stats. I don't see that happening this year. I know they added to the team. They bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois. You get Mangiapane. You get some help on the back end. All of a sudden, this team that should be rebuilding, an older team, oh, they're looking sexy now. They might be in contention for a playoff spot because they snuck in last year and they're adding to the team. I don't think that helps him. I think he's old. I know he's old. And I just think this team is going to move away from him as an option. And I think other teams are done playing around. It's like, okay, it's cute. You were going for the record. We want to win now. Maybe we're not going to leave you open. We're going to cover you on the power play. You're not going to be able to do it 5-on-5. And if you can't get your power play goals, what can you get? So he needs 42 to pass Gretzky. I will give him a couple goals this year, but I think he gets less than 20. I want to see he gets less than 15 this year, which leaves him around 25 to 30 behind Wayne Gretzky, which he will never get. But it's a cute story, and he won't break Wayne Gretzky's record. I'm tripling and quadrupling down on this. So he will regress. He will score less than 15 goals this year. That is my bold prediction.
Less than 15, John.
15 or less.
That is bold. That is very bold. Okay. I think you're wrong. I think that's yeah. You're wrong on that one.
Okay. We'll see.
Okay, the next one. This is a guy that we've talked quite a lot about that I've been really high on. He was really good last year, and he got better as the year progressed. He was one of the few guys on his team that really showed up in the playoffs. Alex Lafreniere is going to lead the Rangers in points. That's more than Trocheck, more than Zibanejad, even more than Artemi Panarin. He's going to have 94 points. His career high is 57, which was last year. And if you follow this trajectory, it's not that much of a jump. It is a jump, but if you follow like the graph of it, this is kind of what comes next. I'm going to say he's going to outperform his pace and put up 94. And most of those will be assists. He'll have less than 40 goals.
Yeah, I could see that happening, especially that first line. Like it's him, Trocheck, and Panarin. That's a solid first line. I feel like Zibanejad and Kreider are really going to suck this year. I think both of them are going to take massive steps back for the New York Rangers, and they're just going to lean on that top line. They have to. What happened in the playoffs? The big guys didn't produce. Lafreniere was the only guy who really stepped up. Him and Trocheck. They were fantastic, Tim. So you put Panarin on that line. I think they'll have a really, really great year. But yeah, 95 is a lot. What was it, 95?
94, yeah.
94. Smart, because 95 would be too many.
That would be way too many. Yeah,
that'd be ridiculous. All right, I'm going to go back to the well again for my last year bold predictions. This time I'm going to say it again. Toronto and Edmonton will make the Stanley Cup Finals. I just think it has to happen. I think Toronto, they got better this offseason. Maybe they learned a little bit. And the reason I think they'll make the Stanley Cup Final, this is it. This is the last time this big four will be together. Tavares won't be there next year. Mitch Marner won't be there next year. Nylander Matthews will still be kicking around. But this is it. This is the best chance that this team has to win the Stanley Cup. There's no other option. After this year, the team will be worse. You're going to be in salary cap hell, having to sign everybody. You got a good third line now with Robinson, Tavares, and McCann. You have a really good defense, bringing in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, retaining Chris Tanev. This is it, you guys. You have to make the Stanley Cup. And the Edmonton Oilers, I feel like it's unfinished business. They're going to go. They're going to win. They're going to repeat what the Florida Panthers did the year prior when they lose in the Stanley Cup Finals and they come back and win the whole thing. So this is it. The Edmonton Oilers, Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's going to be Canada crazy, and the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup because Stan Bowman will play a little salary cap maneuvering, keeping Evander Kane out the whole season. Oh, he's hurt. He's going to have to, there's a lot going on. It's his spleen, it's his shoulder, it's his ankle, it's his hip, it's his neck, it's his back. All of a sudden, he's going to get healthy for the playoffs. He did it with Patrick Kane years and years ago, where Kaner came back for the playoffs, and he was tremendous. This is nothing new for these guys, and that's why they're going to win. If they had a healthy Evander Kane last year, I felt like they would have won the Stanley Cup. So as much as I dislike him, He is a huge part of that hockey team. So the Edmonton Oilers make it, Toronto Maple Leafs make it, and the Oilers win the Stanley Cup for the first time since Mark Messier in whenever 1980 something. But anyways, that's my fourth bold prediction.
I like that. I'm gonna follow that up with a similar one. This is also Toronto based. This is another one I went back through their history to see how far back this goes, and they have been they've been a playoff team for I think 8 or 9
8 years,
years,
yeah.
but they have not been a wild card since the first year of that streak. So I'm going to say they're going to go back to being a wild card team. They're going to fall out of the top three for the first time since 16-17. But the difference is between whether it's injuries, whether it's just pacing and thinking more, placing more of a priority on the playoffs and rather than just regular season goal scoring performance, they're going to win two playoff rounds. So they're going to be a wild card team for the first time in many, many years, but they're still going to lose in the Eastern Conference Finals. I haven't thought about who that team will be. Probably a Florida, Carolina, something like that. But yeah, this is a step forward for the organization, even though it might feel like a little bit more of a tumultuous season. But it's going to be two playoff round wins.
No kidding. The Atlantic has been kind of like on fire this offseason. Obviously, the Florida Panthers, Stanley Cup champions, Bruins turmoil, Toronto Maple Leafs, always issue there. Who is the top three teams then in the Atlantic? It's Florida and Boston. And does Tampa slip in the third spot?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Wow. Getting rid of Stamkos, bringing in Jake Guentzel. So that's interesting. That's a very bold one. All right, moving on. I'm gonna stay in the East. These are very East heavy. I don't know why. I'm gonna go with the fighter. And this one is my most bold one because this is a guy who averaged 5.5 minutes on ice last year, which isn't a lot. He got one goal, he got one assist the whole season. So that's not a lot, and he was only +1. My take is Matt Rempe of the New York Rangers will have 10 goals or more, 10 assists or more, 10 fights or more, and be +10 or more on the season. So the bar is 10, and he will surpass every one of those metrics when it comes to the major stats: goals, assists, plus minus, and of course fights, which we value the most here in this show. The reason for that being the East is tough. There's a lot of fighters out there. So I think he gets his 10 fights fairly easily. When you look at the teams, Devils, Senators, Leafs, Blue Jackets, Flyers, Canadians, all have legit tough guys. So he's going to be in the lineup quite a bit. And I think the Rangers will be a good team. As much as I don't like Zibanejad and Kreider and this and that, they got Shesterkin, they got Fox, they have a really solid team. They will win a lot of games, Tim. They're not going to regress and all of a sudden be a dumpster team. They're going to be ahead in a lot of games. That means they're going to roll the lines. He's going to get 8 to 10 minutes a game. He's not going to be benched because they're going to be losing or in a one-goal game. He will play a lot of minutes. In turn, he will get some points. Maybe he gets on the power play. I don't know. So that's my prediction. Matt Rempe has a fantastic year. 10, 10, 10, 10 across the board.
I love this one. This is a lot of fun. Hoping to have him on the show someday. If you look at those 4-10 stats, goals, assists, fights, and +10, what do you think is the most likely and which one's the least likely?
I think it's the 10 assists.
Is the most or least?
Oh, least likely. I think the most likely is probably 10 goals. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think he gets +10. That's pretty easy for a guy to do on a team as good as the New York Rangers, but I think he gets goals easier than he does assists. Gets a rebound, banks off his behind or his shin. It's harder to like get an assist than it is to get a goal, oddly enough.
You had more assists than goals, right? Or no, you what, 5 and 6?
I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know.
Okay, the last one's going to sound a little bit random to you, but this is a fan base that, and you in particular, has been pretty critical and harsh toward, and I am going to give him a little love with this bold prediction. And this is focused around a goaltender whose career stats surprised me, Cam Talbot. Do you know he had 40-something wins with Edmonton a few years ago? And he had 32 another time. I think he's going to have, I wouldn't call it a career year because he's not going to reach 40 wins again, but I think he's going to have an outstanding season where he gets 35 wins. He's in the Vezina nomination, the conversation, and he leads the Red Wings to the playoffs. It's going to be like, you get pretty good production from Larkin and DeBrincat and Steider, but you look at the team and it's like Cam Talbot's the reason we're here. That's my fifth and final bold prediction.
This would have to, he's 37 years old. You know what I mean? Like he's not a spring chicken. The guy's almost my age, for Pete's sake. He's coming up a really good last year with the LA Kings, but he had the benefit of playing for the LA Kings, who play a 1-3-1. They clog up the neutral zone. They force teams to dump it in. They don't let you get rush chances. This is a guy who is going to all of a sudden be jettisoned into a Detroit Red Wings team that has no defense whatsoever.
They
None. We've
do have
talked we've
defense.
talked about this up and down. They have Mo Sider and then a bunch of bigger guys who are going to get exposed, and it's just going to be a gun shootout up and down the ice. They have a really good offense in Detroit. They have no defense. That's their
I
downfall.
think their defense is much better defensively. Your
No.
critiques last week with the fact that they don't have like a puck moving guy, they don't have a power play quarterback. I think defensively they're okay. But again, this is going to be Cam
What?
Talbot. And may I remind you, this is the bold prediction. This is not. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I think this
You're
will be
making
fun.
me angry. You're making me angry telling me that the Red Wings have a good defense.
I
This
said it's better defensively than offensively.
Well, yeah, because they have no offense. That's easy to say. You got Mo Sider, and that's it. Nobody else. I guess Eric Gustafson a little bit. Tim.
Yep.
Okay, that's a bold one. It's a very bold one. That one will not happen. Cam Talbot is going to be lit up this year. Absolutely lit up. It's going to be like sky high goals against. Sky high. He's
We'll see.
37. He's going to get 40 shots against a night. This guy's going to wear. I feel bad for Cam Talbot. I feel bad for what he's in store. Listen. I like some of the guys on the team. Detroit, whatever Eisman did, it did not work. He has no defense, none whatsoever. He has arguably the worst defense in the NHL.
I think. Is there a fan base that dislikes you more based on the show than the Detroit Red Wings?
Capitals, maybe.
I don't think Capitals. I think they've moved on. I think the
Why do
Wings
the
are the
Red
number
Wings
one hater
fan
now.
base dislike me? They can look at this roster. If I'm an opposing forward, and I go, okay, we're going to have to face Ben Sherratt, big and slow, okay defenseman. Mo Sider, stay away from Mo. Simon Edvinsson, Jeff Petrie, Oli Mata, Eric Gustafson, Tim. None of these players strike fear into me, and I'm like, oh, I'm worried they're gonna
Okay.
take me out, or I'm gonna have to stay away from him. When you look at every other team, the Senators, they got Sanderson who's good, they got Shabbat who's good, they have some good players, Nick Jensen, Artem Zub. Like these are teams. The Buffalo Sabres have a terrific defensive core.
John, suddenly I'm cornered into defending the fact that this is a
It's a
good
bold
team,
prediction.
and they're not. My bold prediction was centered around Cam Talbot leading the team. I said, you're going to look and think, okay, DeBrincat scored 25, 30 goals. Like Patrick Kane is still doing his thing. Larkin's a point per game guy.
Oh, okay.
But Talbot's the reason and it's a bold prediction. It's out there.
Very bold.
I know.
I know. I agree. I love it. Okay, I apologize. I
Thank
should
you.
just. But when you
needed
said
that.
their defense is good, that set me off. That makes me angry. All right, Tim. Moving on. Bold predictions finished. Very good. Let's mark this episode so we can come back and see who's right and wrong. But there was something you noticed this preseason that's kind of an outlier from most preseasons. What's going on this season, Tim, with all these injuries?
Well, I wouldn't even say I noticed it. It's a big conversation right now on social media this week is the amount of injuries that have piled up. And these are star players on preseason. Some of them we talked about, some of them we haven't. And some of these are relatively minor, day-to-day, expected to be ready for opening night, but it still adds up. Here's the list. Panarin, Ryan Lindgren, David Reinbacher, Laine, Celebrini, Stutzla, Shabbat, Brady Kachuk, Drew Doughty, Austin Matthews, Willie Nylander, Eric Carlson, John Tavares, just to name a few. These are star players. These are critically important players. And the conversation that's happening right now is like, is the preseason too long? First question. Second question is, should teams approach this differently? What does Eric Carlson or Artemi Panarin gain from playing a ton of preseason games? Like, I know it's helpful to like get the game speed up and get your legs ready for the season, but is that worth the trade-off and the risk that comes with it?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they would be perfectly fine stepping in day one, regular season game one. I think that the key is just getting comfortable with their line mates, getting the power play working out some of the kinks, the spacing, those types of things where you can't really work on it in practice because it just doesn't give you the game-like feel. So I get the benefit of it, but if this continues to happen, if I'm a GM and I'm throwing these guys out there versus, AHL guys trying to make a name for themselves, and I'm not saying all of these injuries happen because of AHL players, but everybody's just fired up in the preseason. It's just a chicken with their head cut off trying to do something to make a name to get noticed. Why would I want to risk my high end guy that is so important for me to win the Stanley Cup? So yeah, I can see GMs making a pivot where maybe they protect him, maybe they play him, but only play him in the offensive zone on the power play and then pull him so they don't put themselves in a huge risky situation. So it's a damned if you do, you damned if you don't. If you hold them out and they have a slow start this season, then everybody's getting after you because you didn't give them enough time to prepare. But if you put him in there and he gets hurt, it's like, well, what are you doing? This is our franchise player and you're getting him hurt. So it, there's no win in this situation. I think every GM, every sport goes through this, and the preseason is too long. I think it
Yeah.
is. I think you could shorten the games dramatically. I think if anything, they should have more prospects tournaments and less preseason games. You could maybe shorten the preseason to 4 games, so it's more NHL guys playing versus NHL guys. And there are a few spots up for grabs, but for the most part, teams know who is going to be on the roster. The reason why they carry so many players is you have 7, 8 games in the preseason and you don't want your regular guys playing every single game. If you
Right.
shorten that to 4 games, then give the teams 3 or 4 days off before the regular season. It allows you to play mostly NHL players for 3 or 4 games, have a break, then start the season. I think that would be a smart thing to kind of start because a lot of the times it's just 2 AHL teams going at it and it just turns into like bad hockey. And then you have to put NHL players in there, and then they get hurt or something happens, then it gets the news. So I don't know. Yeah, it is a conversation that should be had.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The next thing here, the Wild owner, Minnesota Wild, Craig Leopold was asked about extending Kaprizov, and he still has 2 years left at $9 million. So I'm surprised this is the conversation point right now. But he said, "quote Nobody will offer more money than us or longer." I thought it was just cool to share because you don't really hear GMs or owners speaking so clearly about that. But it's cool to hear a guy commit to his player like that.
Well, I obviously where there's smoke, there's fire, and this is smoke. When the owner has to come out and make a comment saying, "No, we want to pay this guy the most. We want to keep him here." He has heard the rumors. He knows what is happening. Kirill Kaprizov doesn't want to stay in Minnesota, reportedly. So he's trying to do whatever he can to get in front of this and re-sign this guy. But the truth is, there's no say. You have no choice wherever this guy goes. He's going to be a UFA in 2 years. He's going to be highly sought after. And the rumor mill swirling is he wants to play in Chicago. So we'll see where
Yeah.
that goes. But Craig Leopold, good owner, wants to bring a winner to Minnesota. I don't see Kaprizov staying there. I really don't. I think it's been a good run. I think he's really gelled well with Matt Zuccarello. Zuccarello's getting a little bit older. He's going to be UFA at the same time, but he'll be 39 years old. I think Kaprizov will walk at that point. And all of a sudden, Minnesota went from having a really promising young group with Faber and Kaprizov and all these young guys, and then Marco Rossi. He's a huge part of this team, and he will walk. I don't know. Do you think he sticks around?
Well, it's hard to think that he won't based on that. And the report that whole Chicago thing was kind of misquoted by the guy who corrected it later. I'm blanking on the name of him, but he basically just said that teams are interested in him.
Michael Russo,
Obviously,
probably.
it probably was. So yeah, I don't think there's really a whole lot to that, but still cool. But we're some time off. He's got 2 years starting this year.
Yeah.
So there was a signing last night. Tyson Barrie signed with the Flames, 1 year deal at $1.25 million. I'm surprised we like a Detroit didn't look at him or other teams that could have used even at his age, someone who
Yeah,
could maybe
no,
dish the puck.
he's perfect for this type of hockey, this era of hockey. I'm surprised he went unsigned. I would imagine he had some PTO options, and so maybe teams kick the tires on a 2-way contract or maybe a lower dollar amount. Smart on him. Wait it out. Train at your own place and be comfortable, and then all of a sudden you get a 1.25 is a good number for him, and he'll do great in Calgary. They really need some offensive help on the back end.
I could see, like 5 goals, 40 assists, something like that.
And it's a great move for a team like Calgary because they won't compete. Then all of a sudden at the deadline, if he has a good year, he's going to get a second or a third round draft pick. So it's a smart move that they did. The Chicago Blackhawks did that last year when they signed a lot of these veterans for low money or maybe a little higher money with the expectations that they were going to trade them. It didn't happen because they retained Jason Dickinson. They signed on Nick Foligno again. They retained their goaltender Peter Mrazek, and we know the Corey Perry saga. But if I'm a GM and I'm in a rebuilding team, I'm signing all of these vets who I know I can unload at the deadline and get some draft capital for them. It's a smart move.
The big news this morning that the Sharks cut Yaroslav Askarov from training camp, sent him down to the AHL. So everyone's kind of like, well, that's a bummer. I think it's not that big a deal. He's still super young. They have 2 one-way contracts. So I think he's also the only goalie that wouldn't have had to go through waivers, because they also have uh, Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood, who are 28 and 27. And the final thing is, if you have this future stud goaltender who is going to be your guy for a decade, hopefully, do you want him coming in and facing 45, 50 shots a night and just destroying his confidence? I feel like it's better to be a little bit more in control of when he's starting. So I think it's probably not a huge deal, but still worth mentioning.
It's just ironic, isn't it, that he wouldn't go to Nashville because he didn't want to go back to the AHL, and he was causing a stink, and then he gets traded. And I'm gonna, the worst team in the league. Like
Yeah,
they won the lottery last year. I'm gonna be the starter. Nah, we're gonna send you down. So it's just kind of funny how that works.
it is. The last thing, another piece of news I broke today, Clayton Keller was named the captain of the Utah, is it the Yeti? Is that official now?
Not official,
Um,
no.
Yeah, so he's the first in their franchise history. Pretty cool, which leaves only one team, the Seattle Kraken, without a captain.
Nice. I think he deserves it.
Yeah,
He's got to be one of the longest tenured guys on the team. He's not very tall, but good for him. Everybody wanted dirtbag Liam O'Brien, but didn't really come to fruition. So good for Clayton Keller.
by the way, so Chicklets had Kirby Doc on the other day, and then Kirby fought.
Saw
And
that.
there's some stuff online that Biz is trying to take credit for Kirby fighting more when you've been telling him for quite some time. So,
I'm not going to start getting in a beef with Biz. I will not win that. That guy's got he's a celebrity. I am just a 2-bit podcast guy with a very loyal fan base, which I don't want to, I don't want to rock the boat. Let's let Biz take that one. Even though,
okay.
it was us. It was us. Did you see him go into the locker room, John, with an
Yeah,
Ottawa fan saying, "Tell your girlfriend to call me"? That's awesome.
yeah.
That's very, very, very
And the
classic.
haircut, too. It's a
Got a
cocky
hair.
haircut.
He looks good. He's going to have a big year. All right, everybody. Speaking of big year, I hope you have a good weekend. It's a lot of fun. Tim's going down to Key West. Be safe, Tim. Let me know how the proposal goes. I'm going up to Northport with the wife. It's going to be a nice weekend. We'll tell everybody about our trips when we get back on Monday. Cheers, everybody. Have a good weekend.